Preston Rahn, everybody.
Hey guys, so I'm going to talk about the energetics of sales today, how to present, pitch, and profit for sustainable success. And so let's jump right into it. I'm going to give you a sneak peek behind the curtain. So these are some of the people that I've sold for using these: Ted McGrath, Glenn Dietzel, Joel Comm, Margaret Lynch, Oliver Tallman, Sharon Lecter, and some other people in there. Deepak Chopra is another one. So I've done over 5,000 enrollment conversations, and I've closed over $5 million, and I've learned a lot of things like marketing funnels from behind the scenes. Everybody kind of sits in the audience and they see the front end. I'm the guy that kind of sees everything from the back end. And so this is like my holistic way of sales, and it's a way to sell without being manipulative, without pressure, without being pushy. And it's a way to come from your heart and just have a connection with another person. And so we're going to talk about energy. A lot of this stuff that we do, our success comes from within. So we are going to, sorry, I think I'm blocking you there. We're going to talk a little bit about how we can relate this to sales. So there's this guy, Abraham Maslow, the hierarchy of needs, and he says, we either move forward into growth or we're going to move backwards into safety and fear. And so this is kind of like a scale. You can only go one direction. It's like a door. The door is either shut or it's open. Like you can't go through if it's shut. And if we're moving away from fear, we're moving into love. If we're moving towards fear, we're moving away from the growth and love. And this is what happens when we start moving away from growth and love, right? Like, so what does this person look like? Depressed. They're closed off, right? So when we're closed off, we get shut down. It's like we're in a prison. It's our own little prison. And so we get depressed. We feel bad. We get sick. Nothing seems to be working out for us. And really what we're doing is we're moving away from love. We're shutting out love from our life. And it's really the ultimate vibe, because that's really what supports our growth. Meaning, if there's no love in our life, then there's no positive vibes, and it's hard to grow. And so, if that's true, the opposite has got to be true, right? So, if you got something that's hot, it can't be cold. If you're going left, you can't be going right. Something that's positive can't be at the same time negative. So, we live in a dual world, and open and closed, right? So the opposite of that person that was closed off is being open and alive, right? And you can sense the difference. You see the picture, right? The person's totally closed off. It kind of feels bad, right? You get a bad feeling almost. From this, it's like you feel like a little bit more happy. So science, and this is what I like to do, refer to things from both sides, right? So that's why I'm doing it with red on one side, green on the other. So have you ever had a constructive conversation with somebody? It's positive, right? Have you ever had a destructive conversation? And anything, like what's a construction site? It's building up. That's why they call it construction. If we're tearing it down, we're destructing it, right? So the same thing applies to us. And so positives on one side, negatives on the other. And positive on one side and negative on the other is what? It's like a battery, right? You ever seen that? Plus on one side and a negative on the other. So positive and negative creates the energy. So we gotta have both sides of this, right? So you can't have one without the other, but you can't have both at the same time. So there's this new science called quantum mechanics or quantum physics, and it says that everything's energy. So everything comes from with us. It's like the positive and negative. It's the battery, right? That's energy. So we are like a battery, right? So it says everything's energy, and energy is a what? Wait. Energy is a what? It's a wave, right? So it's a vibe. It's a wave. So constructive is a positive wave, right? Destructive is a negative wave. So these are important to pay attention to, because nature allows all plants and animals to communicate through these waves. So this is like body language. You ever walked into somebody, you met somebody, and you instantly feel like real peaceful or nice and loving around them, or the opposite, you meet somebody and like instantly you can just feel like there's a bad vibe with this guy. Well, there's a reason why. Like nature has that built into us. That's how we communicate. So when those vibes interact with each other, it creates a disturbance. So if you drop like a rock in a pool, it creates a wave. If you drop another rock on the other side, it creates another wave. So when those waves come together, they collide, right? It creates a disturbance in the what? Everybody watch Star Wars?
The Force.
The Force. Okay, cool, awesome. The Force. It's the Force.
Yeah. Oh, man.
We got somebody that's paying attention here after lunch. So it's the force. And so what is the force? It's a field. It's a force field, right? So that's like us. Like we have force fields all around us. So the field, though, there's individuals, right? Each individual came here, but the collective field is what brought us here together. So all of us together is the field right now. This is why we have masterminds, right? The mastermind is the collective brain power of everybody coming together. It's much more powerful than just one person, right? Like us here right now. So science says that there's a force, and when two or more of these forces interact and interfere, this field is created. It's like a force field. And so Einstein, he says that the field is the sole governing agency of matter. The field is. So that means that it trumps the individual, which is very important. Meaning, invisible fields shape matter. So this means like, what invisible field governs all of us? I've told some of you guys this already.
Skin?
Close? What do you think with?
Mind.
Brain or mind? One of those two. So good. It's your mind. What'd you say?
I didn't know there was a question.
Pay
Sorry.
attention.
Well, I was distracted because you were over here and I thought you weren't paying attention, but he's
Totally taking notes.
All right, so Einstein says the mind's the field and it gives shape to the body. So that means that we could think something and it will give shape to our body. So meaning we could think that we're healthy or not. We could think that we're successful or not. We could think that we're one way or the other. We can't be both at the same time, right? So this comes back to science, and this is what brought us here together today. It's the collective field. Yeah, we have Brett out here making posts and stuff, but think about the people that didn't show up, that got the same post. Think about the guys that were here, your husband and Greg, they did show up, brought us here. That collective field brought them here, but something else took them away, but still got here. But that was the field. So, and sometimes you don't want to come. Like, I did this at the chamber, and I said, some of you may not have wanted to come, but you had told somebody else that you were going to come, and so now you felt obligated. The field trumped your individual concern. And so that feeling comes from within, and it's either a good feeling, which is what? Constructive, right? Constructive, or it's not so good, which is destructive. Exactly. It's simple. This is it. This is how basic this stuff is. It's either on or off. It's either a good vibe or a bad vibe. Okay? And it's just like in the sales process. So wouldn't you guys rather talk to people on the constructive side that have good vibes versus somebody like the first guy that's closed off, that's not open to change, that's not open to growth, that's not open to talking to you? And so that's also why one person can affect another. That's why it's so important when people say, like, oh, you don't need to be on the phone to sell. Well, if you want to sell high-ticket stuff, you need to be on the phone. And this is exactly why, because these people come in and they're going to say, you know what, I don't need this. I can do this on my own. I can go watch a YouTube video. I can go do this. And it takes us to go, you know what, you certainly could. But let me show you another perspective. Because they got one perspective and they're seeing it one way. You got another perspective. Remember, we were talking about that with you. So you come in, like maybe somebody is doing something different than you or the same exact thing as you. One person can make a difference. Like that one person in the audience, like maybe there's a bunch of other speakers at the on stage, but maybe there's one person in the audience that came to hear you speak, and now you're there to change their life. So that's what we're going to discuss. Energy, how to apply to sales. So this is what I call the energetics of sales, because I totally believe that success comes from within and it creates the reality. It creates the world that we see. Because I'm under the impression that we see the things that we believe, But I think that you can actually believe first and then see it. And that's what manifestation is all about. And that's what this is all about. So energetics is really the study of energy under transformation of physical, chemical, or biological processes. That's us. So it governs us. And why is this important? Because of the transformation. That's what we're all here trying to do, is transform people's lives. That's why you guys are all here, because you're looking for a transformation in your life, in your business, right? You're looking for a shift, right?
Yeah, right.
That's why this is so important to me, is because it's all transportation and what do we say? Transformation.
But hey,
See how my brain-
it's the transportation of shifting, right? Okay.
That's what it's all about. It's a movement. But see, I use things. We're bridging the gap, right? So my purpose is I chose this life to bridge the gap between spiritual and the physical. And then notice I'm using the green on the right, on the left, and the red on the right, kind of the same from earlier. So spirituality on one side, science, the inner versus the external, emotion versus logic, right? In sales, emotion and logic is very important. We talked about, some of you guys heard me talk about this, about getting emotionally involved first. And then you justify that with a little bit of logic. That's an actual formula, okay? Emotion first, logic second, and the logic needs to just be a little teeny bit. So like when you're giving your offers and stuff, like in your webinars, you need to do that's why we do the very, like you were saying, the pitch at the end, right? Like we don't want to start off with the pitch and go, hey guys, I'm going to sell you this thing, and then let me tell you about it. It doesn't work. They've already got the logic, right? The brain is in the mental phase up here is all logic, neocortex. So, you know, emotion is internal. That's like your heart. Logic is like your brain. And so that's the other side, is like, how do we get out of our head and into our heart? And when we're in sales, this is so important, because what we're trying, especially high ticket sales, because we're trying to connect with another person on an emotional level. That's how we connect with somebody, right? And intellectually is good, but when we start thinking things through, our brain starts thinking in terms of the past. Everything is in the past or the future. It's never in the present moment, because the only time the present moment is right now. And you can't think about it because 1 second ago is already in the past. So by you thinking, you're already thinking from the past and projecting it into the future, which means that you're not paying attention to what you're doing right now. So for instance, we were talking about riding a bike. I said, what I like to do is just focus about 15 feet in front of me. I'm aware, but I'm not like thinking like what I got to do later. All I'm thinking about is I go, what are you doing right now, Preston? I'm riding a bike. What are you doing right now? I'm riding a bike. What are you doing right now? I'm riding a bike. All I'm doing is paying attention to the present moment, and nobody does that, you know? So today I'm going to share how I do all this stuff from inside. Like that's why I think that my sales process works so well, is because I'm not really out there to, my intention isn't to sell you. My intention is to inspire you to transform. And if I can do that, the chances of you investing at 100,000 or whatever is a lot greater. There's a few things, I can go into some real deep stuff too. Like there's a few things like Russell Brunson talks about, stuff like you've gotta, they've gotta believe, right? You guys read Expert Secrets? So he talks about the 3 things, like you gotta make sure that the prospect believes that they can do it, right? Like if they don't believe that they can do your thing, they're not gonna buy it. So that's one of your jobs, and that's why we do webinars, because we want to make sure that we can show them that you can do this. And look, we've got other people that have done it too. So if you're doubting yourself, look, this person did this, and so can you. So, and I utilize this stuff in my sales process. I have a 10-step sales process, and I've developed it just by testing and tweaking these things out, utilizing things from the brain, right? Like everybody's like, hey, you gotta go sell, right? Like always be closing, you gotta be closing. So when you hear a buying signal, you gotta go into the sale. I started saying like, well, it doesn't work that way. I feel tension, I don't like that approach, right? There's gotta be a different way. And I'm the kind of an engineer, I like to go through and try to figure things out, right? Like, okay, I'll try this, I'll try that, I'll put this here. We were talking about it at lunchtime, right? The Dan Sullivan question, right? Most people are like, hey, like I think Frank Kern's process is like, start off with the Dan Sullivan question. Where do you want to be if we are having this conversation in 12 months? But that's putting them in the future. So I was like, all right, I'm testing this, and it's not working. I go, well, what if I just put the other thing first? Like, doesn't it just make sense to me logically that they would want to tell me what they're doing now and why they're here on the call with me. And then I could find out what they're looking for, and what that actually does is it creates a gap. And so that's kind of how I developed the sales process. There's this testing over the years, 5,000 enrollment conversations. I mean, I've done a lot, I heard a lot of no's, you know, and it's all in the first part of, you know, the learning phase, right?
So some people talk about escape and arrival. Where do they want to escape from? Where do they want to go? Is that kind of like what you're saying?
Yeah, heaven and hell. Something, I think the traffic and conversion guys say that, hey, you gotta go find, you know, where your heaven's at, but you're in hell now. You gotta move from that, right? So whatever it is, it's like, that's why I put red and green, right? Like one's positive and one's negative, right? It's either this or that. And really, for anyone that sells a product or service, has an initial conversation, asks someone to do business with them, usually entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, that's who this is like best for, right? Authors, experts, other leaders. And this is the process. So this is a PDF, and you guys can download this too. And so I'll just do like the energetics of on this presentation. Maybe I'll get a little bit into this, but my next presentation I'll do is I'll just actually go through the actual sales process. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. And I'll give you guys like the exact things that I do and I say. I'll do a little role play and stuff. It'll be fun. But this is the cheat sheet. I've actually had managers, sales managers, download this, give this to their sales team, and use this specifically. They said they're closing deals just from this, and this is just like very like a blueprint, right? So that's it.
So you're gonna go through that tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's at the very end, and I'll give you a link that you guys can download that tonight, and I'd like you to do that so that you can just check it out, and then when we do have this, like, you know, this time tomorrow, or whenever we do it, you guys will, you know, we'll just have that and you can go through it with me. So let's get back into the inner stuff, okay? We'll talk about the external stuff and how to actually do it, but I want to do the why. Remember we were talking about why this is so important, and I think this is so important because, like you were saying, it's the reason why, right? Everybody wants to know why, but nobody really knows why. So that's why I think it's important. When you understand these things, then then you can apply them to your life and you can kind of utilize that. So positive, negative creates a series, or in a series creates energy, right? Like the battery. And you can create this inside you, right? It's either constructive or destructive. Can't be both. I mean, you can be somewhere on this line, right? But it's always, there's varying levels of it. So you can probably never be all the way over here. It's probably death, right? And this is the only time you're probably ever really at the fully growth stage is when you're just born, or at least in the first few years of your life. But you can be somewhere on here, right? So if you're mainly over here, how do you think your life's gonna go?
Negative?
Probably not that great.
Awful.
And if you're mainly getting vibes like up here, like, so picture environment, right? Like where you grew up, the vibes that you're getting. So maybe you're in, you know, like a really loving family. Most likely, and you have father and mother, most likely you're going to be probably somewhere up here, right? Maybe not fully up, but what if you lived in like a, you know, a third world country or something like that, and you didn't have, like, your father was killed or your mother was killed too? You're probably going to be somewhere down here in the fear and looking for safety and survival, and that's not where we want to be. And this is what happens in sales too. People get into this survival mode. They're like you start off in sales, you're like, oh, I can do this, great, like, cool, I got some sales. No, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. Man, something's wrong. No, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. Dude, I'm following the sales process. I'm doing what you're telling me to do. Man, maybe there's something wrong with me. Man, I really suck. Man, my income's down. This is bad. Me. So now we're starting to associate with the negative pain. So this is essentially like a schizophrenic, right? It's a split personality. We're actually taking on something that's not us, because we're positive in growth. We're born all the way up here. So what happens as we go through life? Life starts knocking us down. But who's really knocking us down?
Yourself.
It's ourselves, right?
I blame the Chinese.
But what did we say in the beginning? The collective field is the thing. So I could go through and be like, you know what? I won't age. I might fully believe in my head that I won't age, and I might look a lot younger than somebody else my age. But because the collective field says, TV commercials say anti-wrinkle creams and, you know, all these ads and everything else, society, the collective field, it overpowers us. It's in the back of our head, subconscious mind. So things can't be both constructive and destructive. If you're destructive, you're like this guy, right? If you're constructive, you're like these people. But it's never fully that way unless you're dead or you're born. So this means that somewhere in the middle, if it's up to us, we have to take control of our life at some point, and we have to take control of our thinking. And so by knowing this, it returns our responsibility on everything, our health, relationships, wealth, success. It makes us become 100% responsible for anything that happens in our life. So you are the source, right? You're the energy, you're that battery. But like I said, there's varying levels, right? Like you're not always on one side or the other. And then what this does is it creates your self-identity. And this is that thing where we start identifying about like I. And most people when they grow up, they didn't have a great loving relationship with their family. So I usually ask these questions. If we get really deep in a sales conversation, sometimes they'll go, do you mind if I ask about your childhood? And I just say 3 things. Like, I want to know what your relationship was with you and your father, was it with you and your mother, and you as a third party seeing your mother and father interact. And then I might ask something like, who was the breadwinner? Who made the money? And then you can start seeing, like, if they have an issue with money, like if they say, oh, I never really have any money coming in. Well, maybe there was something when they were growing up that they saw, that they, like a computer, right? Like we put a program into the computer, we can't use the computer until the program's done installing. So as a little boy, little girl, you grow up, the first 6 years of your life is the download stage of the computer program. That's your delta, your theta, and your alpha states. There's no beta. Beta is where we're at right now. It's a conscious level. So you are not conscious. You don't have actual thoughts of creation until 7 years old. So that means that from the age of 6, like 7 before, you're programmed for this. This is why somebody could like say something and like you snap at them and you don't really think you're snapping, but the other person's like, and I know because this happened recently with me, I snapped at somebody and they're like, you're snapping. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize it. I wasn't aware. Because during that programming stage when I was learning it, I wasn't conscious. I didn't see it. It wasn't in my brain. But now as we get older and we grow up, now it happens, but we're not conscious, but other people are. So it creates our self-identity, which actually I believe is when the first cell was created from you, because it's, it's got, it can sense things, right? It can divide, it can pick up vibrations through your mom's womb, right? So science actually says a woman is just there to bear the child, and that's pretty much it. You're just a shell for the child. But we know that what the woman puts into her body affects the baby. So it could be constructive, destructive. Could also be the father either yelling at the mother and that vibration coming in, the baby is picking that stuff up. Could be the opposite. The father could be singing or talking to the baby through the mother's belly, and that could provide constructive. So even before the baby's born, it's being programmed. So not everything is genetics, not everything is your fault initially, because it's based on the environment. Our external world's created based on those levels that we choose to let in. So science actually proves, if you guys have done anything with Dr. Bruce Lipton, he actually proves through stem cells that environment is actually the key to what's going on. So he took a stem cell and he put it into a petri dish with like, a toe cell. And then he took the same stem cell, put it in a petri dish with like an eye cell. And then he took the same stem cell and put it in a dish with like a tooth cell. And guess what happened? That one cell grew into each of those things. So that proved that environment actually creates, like the force field, right? Like creates that new environment. So where you are in your environment is very important, which is why like doing events like this is so important, because you're coming in here and your environment is changing from your normal state of where you're always at. When you get into, that's why like meeting people is awesome, because the field comes in, we're getting into a new environment, and we know that the external world's created by that, by our environment and what's going on inside of us. Get different vibes. So what's vibing on the inside of us vibes out. And like a magnet, if we're vibing things out, guess what? It's going to attract things back to us. So if we're vibing out destructive waves, what's going to happen when we interact in the world? Shit's going to come to us and go, man, like, why the hell did that happen to me? I'm driving down the road, all of a sudden, whack, I get hit by a car. Why the hell did that happen? I'm riding my bike, I get hit by a car. Why did that happen to me? Why did it happen to me? I must have been sending out destructive waves. That's the only reason. That's the only answer. That's the only reason why. And it's based on somewhere on the scale. So where are you on that scale? Like, where are you sending out vibes? Are you neutral? If you're neutral, nothing's happening. You're stagnant. So, we attract what we think about. That's like the law of attraction, right? Think and grow rich. That's it. That's how it comes down to. It's like really that simple. Like, and it's not just thinking like, oh, positive thoughts, because why? The positive thought helps, but it's got to be repetitious. Like in Think and Grow Rich, he says, you got to do it over and over and over again. So if we have a thought that goes over and over and over in our head, it becomes a belief. So our belief system is what actually creates our reality. So if you believe that the leads coming in suck, guess what? You're going to see more leads that come in that suck. Man, this sucks, man. I'm getting all the people that don't have any money. Man, Tammy over there, she's closing everything. What the hell's going on? How come we're getting the same leads and I'm not? It must be me. That's right, guess what? I'm not good enough. And guess what? It reinforces the idea of how we grew up. I'm not good enough. Somebody like maybe you were a little kid and you're in the store and your parents, like you're 4 years old, you don't remember it, but your parent says, no, you don't deserve that, you're bad. Guess what? That little thing could have stuck in the back of your head for the rest of your life, and it usually shows up around 25 to 35 years old. That's where your pain starts to actually manifest into real life. And so I wrote a couple books. I'm a #1 best-selling author. Actually, I wrote the book here. I have another book that I'm going to launch as well. And I talk a lot about this stuff on like from your childhood. And it's crazy. So one thing we could do is we become aware of these things. It's consciousness, right? So we either move towards growth and excitement or move away from it, right? Like these people. And once we move away from growth, being happy and healthy, and move towards safety and being closed down where the vibe is low, like this guy, right? And because I know that, I give people a proper plan that takes them from where they are now to where they want to be fast. And that's why I was saying sometimes people go through my stuff and they get like results literally within 24 hours and close like a $10,000 deal. But if you're in this kind of position, where do you think you're going to attract?
Nobody.
Nobody. Nobody that's going to want to do business. You might get lucky. You might get somebody that comes through and says, yeah, that's why you still have a job. But the people that are like just vibing out good vibes, they're the ones that are going to do it. So it's about having faith, right? This is like Price Pritchett, you guys, U Squared, read that book? You mentioned something about something in there, one of those things. But this is what it is. Have faith, right? You got to have faith in the unknown. You got to step out of your comfort zone. You got to have courage. So courage is faith. And if you go into something with complete confidence and complete faith, if there's no fear there, then what are you going to do? You're going to do it. You're going to do it. You're going to have confidence in yourself. You're going to believe in yourself. And so this is the key, right? This is the simple thing right here. So you guys know Brené Brown? She did this study and found that the difference between successful people and not so successful people was just the level of belief that they had in themselves. So the people that were really successful, they just woke up and just believed that their business was going to be successful. What does that mean? We could will anything into our life. We could will a poor business into success. We can will poor health into health. We can will a poor relationship into a good relationship. Okay? These things come from within. So if you believe in yourself, if you believe in these things, and again, what's a belief? It's just a thought that goes in your head over and over again. Something that you just think over and over. If that's the thought that's going over, because we talked about this earlier, how many bits of information can we process at any time? 40 bits. But how much are we getting at any one time?
4,000.
40,000.
I was listening.
40,000. Yeah, we got one person in the room listening. I love it.
Play it
Get off
Bring
the
some
get off the
books.
porn.
So I got the courage and boldness to move forward, and hope is nothing but comfort in times of pain. So that's the distinction between the two. And then also, talking about your what your belief is, understand that success comes from willpower, not can power. It doesn't matter what you can do; it only matters what you will do. So.
Yeah. But also willpower though is force.
Yeah.
So that's not something that we want to do. Like we don't want to force life. We want life to come to us.
Right.
So we don't want to apply willpower. We don't want to have to use willpower. That's actual force. That's like, you know what? I'm going to try to make this thing work. I'm going to get it in there. Like however it works, I'm going to force it in. A forceful relationship, a forceful business. Like on a call, hey, you buy this thing now. Like that doesn't work.
Right.
It's a really good audiobook, a book called Power versus Force.
I know, I got it. I started reading that. It's all about muscle testing.
Well, the muscle testing stuff for me is a little. I'm not a believer necessarily in that, or there's some bias.
This is all it right here. It's all it. It's either on or off. It has to. It either works or it doesn't.
And we can get into that later. But the rest of the book is really powerful and has to do with levels of consciousness and how. Power versus force. Yeah.
There's another book called Willpower Doesn't Work. It's about, it's just saying that, it's for example, if you're on a diet, don't have cookies in your house. Because none of the willpower in the whole world is going to be able to help you from eating those cookies. At some point, you're going to break and you're going to eat those cookies. So it means change your environment.
Chips.
You want to change something, change your
Do we
environment.
have any cookies?
So I want to
Case in
clear
point,
up.
I eat all those snacks.
So I want to clear up a couple things on my when I refer to the willpower, I wasn't trying to force things, but you have to have the willingness to move the engagement to move forward.
Right, like I said, you can will something into by just saying,
exactly.
I believe this.
And of course, and going back to your to the environment, the collective consciousness, the environment, no matter what, willpower will always, when it comes to willpower versus habits will always win until you switch that up. That's why the cookies will always, because the environment's still.
But how do you win? But that's the question: is until you win. So the next question is how do you get there?
Change your environment.
That's one key. But you already said it. It's becoming conscious.
Mm-hmm.
It's because because usually what happens is we react to situations. If we become aware of the situation, we can pause. So if we say, you know what, I'm not feeling very good. Why? Why does my gut start to hurt all of a sudden? So why does our gut hurt? Because the blood is in growth phase. Right now it's all good, right? Our gut doesn't hurt. But when we do fight or flight, all the blood gets constricted, it gets out of our body, and it goes to either fight into our arm, all the blood comes here, or it goes to our legs so that we can run. It's not in our body anymore. And so if it's not in our body, we're not growth. We're not growing. We're not here. We're moving away from growth. So if you're running away from a bear, do you need to know how to solve a math problem? You don't need the brain. So your frontal lobe also constricts too, and people say you're out of your head. You're out of your mind. I am out of my mind because I don't have any blood in there. It's all you're working on autopilot. And that autopilot was created when? When we were 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, it was our program. That's how we installed the program. So if we go through life and we have that same program running, I'm not good enough. This sucks. This is happening. Why does this keep showing up to me? It's a pattern, right? Habit. Habit starts showing up. It must be me. I have to accept it. I just have to accept life, right? This is what it is. Oh, I got cancer. Oh, I just have to accept it. The doctors say I have to do this. Well, I have to accept it.
Yeah, that other book I mentioned was talking about power of intention, which is a lot like belief. It's called Parallel Universes of Self. Really good stuff. And he says, basically, when you're the observer, when you give something your attention, when you're the observer, you give something your attention. When you give something your intention, you're the experiencer.
Yeah. So what this comes back to is our sense of self, right? Our self-value. And what is self-value? It's our self-worth. So it really comes down to worthiness. Are we worth it? Are we worth it? Are we worth the money? Are we worth the time? Are we worth the effort? Only one person is there to say it. You know what? Fuck yeah, I am worth it. I'm 100% worth it. That's like in having confidence and faith, right? In the sales process. Look, I'm 100% confident that our system will help you out. Versus, you know what? I think we can help you out. What's more powerful? I'm 100% confident that we can help you out. There's no question in my mind that if you come through our program, you will get the results that you're looking for. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, this could work. I mean, this is good, but, you know, so do you want to invest? It's like, so worthiness, but that comes back inside of you. Are you worth it? And if you're going to present that out, you got to believe that you're worth it. And so you got to believe it. So what's a belief? It's a thought that goes through our head over and over again. So what do we say? Like, I'm worth it. I wake up every morning, the first thing I say is, today is a freaking awesome day. It's another great day, and everything is working out for me. I want to start off that way and think that, because if not, guess what starts happening? Oh man, I got to go do this. I got to go do that. And man, this sucks. And you know, that happened. And man, that person did this to me. And you know, like, dang, we start taking hits. So successful people, they have a strong sense of worth and love and belonging. Average people, they have a lower self-worth, a lower sense of self. They accept things as the way that, oh, it's the economy. Oh yeah, you know, I had a person the other day, I was telling her, I was like, hey, you looked like you had fun on that trip. She's like, well, I lost my glasses and I had to go buy some new ones. It was like $15. I was like, oh, that's not that bad. She's like, yeah, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm just getting by on crumbs. And I said, you know what? That's not true. I was like, you will if you keep saying that, but what's the opposite? And she's like, okay, I'll take your law of attraction advice and I'll put it out there. Oops, I just looked in my purse and I still have those crumbs. And I said, guess what? If you keep thinking that, guess what's going to happen? That's all you're going to get. Something's going to come up, an opportunity's going to come up, and you're going to be like, yes! And then it's going to fall through. Or something's going to pop up, and then boom, that's your self-saboteur. So belief in self's the variable here. One thing we can do is we can change our relationship with ourselves. So we can do this thing with ourself, we can do this with money, but the quality of love, we can begin to love the qualities that we have and love where we are in life. So that's the other thing, it's the environment, right? Man, I hate where I'm at. So if I hate where I'm at and I move to another place, if I don't change that inner vibe because it's destructive, I can still move to a new environment and it'll just be just as bad. I could hate this house. I need to move out of this house. I go to the next house, the same shit starts happening. Same stuff starts showing up. So environment's key, but we have to pay attention to it and change. And when then we can change our relationship with other things such as people and money. So look, if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves, how do you think we're going to have a good relationship with anybody else? How are we going to have a good relationship with money? And that's one thing that we can do, is that we can look at money like it's a person. You can say, man, I love hanging out with all this money. Like, I'm just picturing all of you guys as dollar signs. Not because I'm a sales guy and I want to sell you, but you know, I'm just saying, like, yeah, I love hanging out with you guys, but you guys, it's just energy. You're a person. The dollar is energy too, right? It's just fictitious. I mean, it's all digital now anyways, right? Like we go to the bank account, we don't really have that dollar in there. So it's just a number on a screen. So we can look at money like it's a person, have a good relationship with it. I love this relationship that I have with money. You know, I want more of it. I want to be friends with the Billionaires Club. So I intend to be a multi-billionaire, right? That's my goal. That's what I think about. So I believe that I am a multi-billionaire. Now, the other side of it is that, so belief is the key, right? But then the next question you're going to ask is, well, how do I get there? Here's the cool thing. That's not your job. So let it go. Stop thinking about the how. Stop thinking altogether. Because when you stop thinking, that's when you get creative. That's when you download. So meditate. How many of you guys meditate? You meditate?
Yeah,
Meditate? You guys meditate?
Yes.
Sometimes? Okay, so we got half the room over here. So this is the
On
sun.
the
See
side.
how,
On
see
the
how the
side of
collective
the
field? You guys drew, see how, sometimes.
When I go to
Usually
China,
after have a couple.
Wait a minute, I meditate every
Is this
day.
sometimes that?
Yeah, this is
'Cause
sometimes.
I'm the more
Supposed to use
frequently
the
than
power of
six
attraction.
sometimes.
I meditate daily.
Every morning.
my favorite time is
Everywhere while
to,
you're sleeping.
I meditate
Actually,
every morning.
I do.
But my favorite place to do it is with the monks in China.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's cool places to do it. I love doing it outside. It's so hard to do it here because of mosquitoes and the humidity.
You know, you keep thinking that way. Well, that's the collective environment. My bad.
Very cool.
It
Okay.
is. It's the collective environment.
The guys in China, the monks take it to a whole new level.
Oh yeah, but that's what they're doing. So like they're actually staying conscious. So like, all right, so those different stages that I said. So delta is when you're sleeping, right? So theta is the next one, like if you're just waking up and you don't know whether it's a dream or it's real, that's theta. You still can't do a math problem, right? Alpha is the next stage, like you're waking up. So like you're laying in bed and you're like, you're still not going to solve a math problem, but you can get up and you can go to the bathroom and you can navigate your way back. Then you get into beta, right? Then you have your coffee and then your brain starts kicking in. This is like age 7, right? So you're actually, when you wake up, you're actually going through a rebirth. And you actually go through the delta, the theta, the alpha, and then you get to beta, which is conscious level. Then you're like, cool, I'm ready to go to work. My appointments, I start at 11 a.m. So, before that, I'm doing my meditation, biking, I'm doing my stuff. And then at 11 comes around, like, I'm ready to go. Like, I know my habit has said that, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I'm not even thinking about work yet. But until like 10:55, then I'm like, oh shit, what do I gotta do? Who's my next appointment, right? All right, so we can enjoy hanging around money, and we can want to have more of that flowing in. We can feel joy and happiness and love for money. So that's the other thing in the sales process. People want the money, but they're like forcing away. Oh, these people don't have money. Oh, or you ever see some of these people, they're like, hey, like, watch us do a Facebook Live and like close deals live on the phone. I heard this guy, he was like, put it on mute. He's like, yeah, these fucking assholes, like, they better buy, and then he takes it off, and I'm like, look at the energy that you're putting out. You're calling your clients fucking assholes.
Like Wolf of Wall Street.
I mean, yeah, you might get these people to buy, but those are the people too that are gonna like return, something bad's gonna happen, right? Like, they're not gonna get the results, they're gonna make a bad complaint. Like, it's like what you put out is what you get back. So you could have, I go, what's the opposite of that? I am closing deals. My clients are awesome. You know the deals that I love? The deals that like, so I'll give you an example. I was at the ClickFunnels event in Vegas, and, or not ClickFunnels, the 10X live event, Grant Cardone's. You were there in Vegas?
No,
So, shit, I forgot.
sorry.
You're at
Funnel thingy.
you're at the 10X event in Las Vegas, and you're talking about crank.
You're closing deals, do the opposite instead of like having a negative.
Oh yeah, so I
attitude.
like to have the deals like that come out of the blue. So I took all these people, like, hey, give me your name, I'll call you, we'll do the deal. Like, I'll call you, we'll do a strategy session, we'll do a strategy session. So I went through 2 weeks of calls, and I was like pounding, I was willing it, right? I was like, man, I was like, dude, I'm totally gonna close like 20 of these people, right? Like, all these people come in, I'm gonna get so much sales. And I pounded the pavement, hit the phones, not one person bought. I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, all these people were so excited at the event, and now they're not. And I was like, you know what? I give up. Like, I'm not even calling any of these people anymore. I was like, fuck them. Like, none of these people are even gonna go for it anyways. Screw it, I'm done. And then literally, like, the phone zaps. Or no, I go, you know what? I wish I had those I remember this one client that came in out of the blue, and he was like, so how much, it was like one of my first coaching clients, and he was like, how much do you charge? And I was like, well, I had just paid a coach $2,500 a month, and she said it was 3-month minimum. So that was the first thing that just blurted out of my head. He's like, how much do you charge? I was like, oh, it's 3-month minimum, $2,500 a month. He's like, cool, can I just pay you all at once? And I was like,
Yes.
yeah, I was like, I guess you could do that, and then on the inside, I'm like, yeah, right. So it was the easiest deal. I didn't have to upsell, I didn't have to do anything. So I focused in that moment. I was like, man, like, screw all this. I was like, you know what? I just wish I had a client like that guy. Came in, like, just did the deal, everything was good. So the phone, literally, like, 5 minutes later, bzzz, there's a text message. And I must have given the guy my number, like, verbally or something, but I didn't have his card, I didn't have any of his information, and I had just let go. I think I told one of you guys or some of you about the lounging for, oh, that was Greg, lounging for success. When you lounge, you don't think about anything, you just enjoy the sun. Just get out there and just enjoy yourself. So this guy came through, and his message says, hey, I'm interested in that 35K package, how do I get started? So after all this stuff, I'm like, yeah, right, this dude's interested in the 35K package, just like all these other people were. And I was like, you know what, whatever. I'm just gonna be blunt with the guy. I said, yep, it's 35K. I was like, I'll send you the agreement, you sign it, you wire us the money, you're in. Like something, like one quick sentence, right? And I'm thinking like, cause I'm pissed, right? I'm like, oh, and the guy's like, all right, I'll have it done in 90 minutes. I'm thinking, yeah, right, like, I'll believe it when I see it. And then the deal came through. And so, like, I attracted that, right? And so I'm like, man, I want more of those people that had come through like that. I didn't believe it at first, but I believed that they could come through. I didn't know it was that guy. But that's the thing. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know when it's going to come. So the when and the how, it's not your job. Like, I had no idea that that guy was even on my radar. Wasn't even on my list, and I didn't have his card. He found me. So that's the thing that can happen like this. I've done that before. Like, when I first moved here, I had to go back and live with my parents. Moved in with this girl that I knew from high school. We started dating for a few months. I decided to move back here. It was like 6 months. And then when I got here, I was there for 3 days. And it didn't work. She was like, nah, I don't want you in my place anymore. Like, I'm invading her space or something. I was like, you know what, just take me to my parents' house. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, all right, like, what am I gonna do? I gotta get a place. I'm basically starting over, right? I just come out here, I was like, so I go outside and I meditate, and I start focusing on, so this is before that guy, but I was focusing on that other client. I'm like, man, I would love to have these clients just come in. And then literally out of the blue, somebody comes in, and he's like, hey, it was Alex Jeffers. And he was trying to get me for 6 months. And like, I was like, but just one day I remember it clearly. I was like going outside in the morning to do my meditation, and I was like, you know what? I keep telling all these people to let it go, to stop focusing on what you want. Like, I'm gonna practice what I see. Just fuck all the clients. Like, I don't want them anymore. Like, just let everything go. Women, money, everything gone. I'm just gonna go out and meditate. And then like literally like an hour later, the email comes in, and like a month later, I saw $100,000 for him. I get another guy that comes in, wants me to start selling e-commerce websites. That year, I sold like $500,000 in e-commerce websites. I did over like $700,000 in sales in like 9 months. And it was pretty cool. Like, I didn't even work the first part of the year. I was like, what am I gonna do? But I made a decision. I had a good relationship. I was in joy and happiness. Or I could have been just moping around going, man, this sucks, my life sucks, like da 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 da. I changed it, right? So it was me. So this is the same thing in sales. We need to do this. We need to pump ourselves up. We have a better relationship with ourselves, we can have a better relationship with people, and we can have better things start flowing into us. And so science proves all this stuff, that, so if you're off, right, like, oh man, I'm having an off month, or hey, I'm off today, right, your mind or your belief system needs to change. It's not external. It's not like, oh, I need to get this new, what do you do? YouTube. Oh, I need to go into YouTube now. Oh, I got to check out Facebook. Oh, I got to go do this thing and this thing and this thing. Right? It's a shiny object system. But what we really need is an attitude adjustment. We really just need to like take a deep breath, slow down, just stop thinking about it, just relax. And so, quick lesson: you're made out of cells that contain protein. Protein responds to the signal of the field, right, which comes from your mind. So your mind creates your field, okay? So what's the only two things that can cause destructive or negative vibes? Your mind. So either your protein's bad or your signal's bad. So you got your mind, you got your protein. But what's protein?
Body.
Where's your mind?
Inside your body, in your head.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. Only about 5% of the people are actually born with genetic defects. So that means 95% of the people out there should be perfectly healthy. So why aren't they?
Depends on how they're educated.
Which is based on what?
Based on a set of
Environment.
ideas.
Based on where they grew up.
Yeah.
Just their environment.
Yeah, which is a set of ideas.
Yeah. So 95% of the population should be happy, healthy, successful, right? So if you don't have a birth defect, guess what? Guess what's bad? The signal, right? So we got to change that. So there's only 3 things that can come from create a bad signal. So trauma. So if you get in a car accident or something happens, drugs, right? We take drugs or processed foods creates cloudiness in our brain. But our mind, our thoughts, that's the number one thing. Is what we think about, we believe, right? So, and then our thoughts and beliefs are based on our environment.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes back to our cells. Like our cells, it goes down to the cellular level. We never even think about that, but if our cells are in one individual and we're made up of like 40,000 or 40 trillion cells, and our brain, or not our brain, our mind controls all those 40 trillion cells, that means that we can do it in sales too. We can go in and we can literally change a bad day, a bad week, a bad month around like that. Literally could happen to the next call. So your self-image is based on that, right? So that's where the key of all this stuff. And again, it's before the age of 7, and we can either move towards fear or away from it. So self-image sets your boundaries. Like if we're playing a game and you don't know the boundaries, like if you're playing basketball and you don't know where the lines are, how do you know what's out of bounds? How do you know what, where everything is? So you got to create boundaries, and we're never going to outperform our self-image. So if our self-image thinks of us as lazy and fat, guess what our body's going to start producing?
Fat rear end.
A fat rear end, exactly. If we start thinking that everybody doesn't have money, the next weeks of my calls,
You'll
most
be
of
a
the people
broadcast
show
with
up.
no commissions.
Exactly. So people go around and say, man, I'm in a slump. I need to get out of a slump. What's the only way they can get out of a slump?
By not getting in voicemail jail.
By deleting the chatter in their head, changing it, switching it. What's the opposite of this isn't working? Things are working out. Things are working out for me. Everything's working. I wake up in the morning, guess what? Everything's working out for me. So our self-image is the most key to this. So whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. So if you're born healthy, there's nothing wrong with you or anything other. There's nothing wrong with anything other than your self-image. So for things to change, you got to change. Otherwise, they won't change. And if you continue to do what you've been doing, you're going to continue to get the same results. So you must make the conscious choice. This is where consciousness comes into play. Is like, well, we can sense. So like if we sense a bad situation, we could react and let that, like, oh, these, the sales process must suck, or the leads suck. We got to get a new, new source of leads. But if we make the conscious choice that, you know what, I'm aware that something sucks, but I'm going to contain it like, the water in this bottle, right? It's contained inside that bottle, and I can actually move that over there, and now I can be conscious to move away from that pain. Because if we're moving away from pain, where are we moving?
To comfort.
To growth and love, right? Positive vibes, exactly. So if we're putting out negative vibes, we're going to attract that. We can change that and put out good vibes. And that's how we reprogram our self-image. You can do that. So this is a cool thing. I wanted to ask you guys to write this stuff down. This is really cool. So this is one thing that, and you can learn this. I actually found out that Napoleon Hill stole this idea from me like 50 years ago when he wrote this book. But if you go to the second chapter in Think and Grow Rich, it's pretty similar to what I'm going to show you. But I didn't know that until I've actually perfected this. I actually went back and I reread the book last year, and I found out this is it. So these are my manifestation steps, and these are actually really awesome. And when we focus our mind through meditation and altering our brain waves from the beta state that we're in like now to the alpha and even theta states, that's when we can reprogram. Because remember, when were we actually programmed? From the ages of 0 to 6, and that's where delta, alpha, and theta waves were. So that's why children can learn 3 languages at one time. But when you get 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, it's very hard to just learn one language because consciousness sets in. So in order for us to change that, we've got to get into an alpha or even a theta. It's really hard to get into theta state unless you really, really, really practice it. And
Center points are good for that.
yeah, center point, those binaural beats. I got a bunch of stuff on YouTube. Like I have some public channels, so if you go to my YouTube channel, you can see I have meditation stuff out there publicly. I have delta waves, theta waves. I sometimes go, like sleeping, I just put my cell phone on and I just listen to 8-hour delta waves, and it just keeps my brain way down. I sleep really well. And then when I wake up, I instantly do meditate. Well, I go to the bathroom, and then I go to meditation, but I go into alpha or theta, right? And I'm just sitting there and I'm just not thinking about anything. I'm just connecting with myself.
Is
And
this the bathroom part or the meditation?
so
Wow. Just for clarification.
And you meditate on the bathroom too.
you can, but that's my point is when you're in alpha state, that's when you go to the bathroom.
I was a pattern interrupt. There was a marketing lesson there.
All right, so we can direct that energy to healing our mind, our body, anything. We can heal it from our source, right? So remember this guy from the Matrix? There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path, right? Like I can show you guys how to do this stuff, but it's until you actually apply it and put it into your actual practice that you're gonna see the results from it.
So are you saying you can't do my push-ups for me? Okay.
I can show you the
Just
path, but you gotta walk it. Which is why I love coaching, because I have, like, when people apply the things that I show them, like they literally get results in hours. When they don't, then they don't. So your reality doesn't support you, you support your reality. And most people have it backwards, so success can come from within. So we're getting to the end of this here pretty quick. So take a piece of paper out, and I do this at the very top. I'm gonna use this one real quick here. So at the very top up here, I want you to write at the top just what I desire to experience with my next perfect, and it could be anything: client, car, house, lead, business, mate, soulmate, whatever. It works with physical and biological things as well. And so here's the thing: is we want to focus these things on as if they're happening or have already happened. Like it's in the present. Like I am, or I have this, or like so when I did this with Ted McGrath, like I was working with Sharon Lecter, and like it was a good experience, but everybody on the team was a woman except for me, and so it was I was the oddball out, and anything that happened, like I got blamed for stuff, and I was like, I don't like all the cattiness with all the, no offense, but I was like, I just don't want to work with only women. So my next thing is I did this, and I go, you know what I desire to experience with my next perfect client. And I started listing all the things out. I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I had like 25 numbers down there. So what I mean by being specific but not too specific, I'll give you an example, is if you're looking to get a new, like say, BMW, a blue BMW, you're like, man, I want this blue BMW. What you're actually doing is shutting off all other possibilities. So you could have like a cool Mercedes that comes by, and that could have been the perfect car for you, but you weren't paying attention to it. So in other words, I might say something like, I would love to find the perfect, what I desire to experience is the perfect luxury sports car, right? So I'm not really defining a color. I mean, if you really, really are adamant about a color, then you can put it in there to kind of see if it shows up, but you're also blocking out the other opportunities when you do it that way. So, and you think of terms of I am, like I am doing this, like I am successful, I am becoming successful, I am creating complete financial freedom, I am creating and living the life of my dreams, I am already here. I am my perfect client. That's a good one right there. Is I always tell people, or I'm attracting my perfect client, but I am my perfect client. That's the other thing I always say. Become the client that you want to show up, right? Like if you want somebody to show up and pay 10 grand, like when's the last time you showed up and paid 10 grand to somebody else? Like if you have never paid 10 grand to somebody, it's kind of hard for you to ask somebody for 10 grand. So 100 grand, if you never paid anybody $100,000, a lot of times it's hard to ask someone. I'm not saying that you need to go out and do it, but I'm just saying like if you've done it, it's a lot easier to do that. So the next thing is that, again, you want to list those characteristics out, but not be too specific, right? Write each one on a new line, and for best results, you can write this out every day. It's very hard to do that. These are time consuming. Even just to read 25 lines is actually kind of tough to do, but do it. It's going to take you 5 minutes, and I guarantee you, like when you do this like 3 times a day, that's the next step. Oh, sorry, you guys.
Be specific enough though, because I used this strategy on my first wife. I wasn't specific enough, so I'm more specific on my current girlfriend.
But the qualities of it, that's the thing about being specific, is what I'm saying is like if you want to do that with a woman, like exactly, or a car or anything, start listing the things out of the vehicle that you want, right? Like I would prefer it to be a blonde, but I'm open to other options. I would prefer a red car, but
So I had done 40 with my current girlfriend. I put it in I have an old cigar humidor, which is my life box, and put things you want in there. And it's amazing how you'll forget all about it. And when we started dating, I found this list, and I was like, oh my God, it's